Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. This is a very exciting presentation about talking about uniting Africa. My name is John Sonnegaard, and I'm the Associate Provost for Global Learning and International Affairs here at Western Kentucky University. And I'm really honored and pleased to be joined by some colleagues from the university, Dr. Grace Larty, a professor of public health, and as well as several of our students who are joining us. And I'll just kind of go around really quickly. Fatin Yaro, who is from Burkina Faso. Ali Note Malebo, who is from the Congo. Coco Christian, who is also from Congo. Joel, who is from Nigeria. And Divine Lukoku, who is also from Congo. So thank you very much and welcome. What we're going to do is very briefly talk about where we're from and some of our interests in Africa, and then, but specifically talk about some different ways that Africa might be brought closer together and united. So I would like to just start out very briefly. I have had the good fortune of spending a little over 2.5 years living and traveling in different parts of Africa. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Morocco, but I also did some of my graduate work in Kenya and Tanzania. I've given presentations and spent a fair amount of time in South Africa. My daughter was a Peace Corps volunteer in Mozambique. I've also traveled to Uganda and to Egypt. So I've spent a lot of time in Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and Northern Africa. Very, very different parts of the continent and an extraordinary diverse continent. And it's a place that, my experience meeting people and getting to know people and their cultures has certainly enriched my life. And I'm very grateful for those opportunities that I've had. But I want to just talk very, very briefly about sort of the size of Africa and where it's headed. Sarah Beth, can you pull up my little slide? Thank you. So Africa is the second most populated continent on the planet with 1.3 billion people, or 1,300 million. And I say that because just so that people can maybe compare it to something that they're familiar with, it's about double the size of Europe, which has 750 million people, or almost 3.5 times the size of North America, where we are here, which has about 370 million people. By the year 2050, 2 in every 5 children will be born in Africa. Currently, Africa is the youngest continent on the planet. The average age is 19. The urban population in Africa is expected to triple, which is actually very exciting because there's a lot of remarkable things, incredible things that are happening in African cities. African economic growth in 2019 was 3.5%. And again, for comparative purposes and recognizing that the U.S. economy is much larger, the U.S. economic growth was 2.3%. So Africa is really moving forward economically. To give you a sense of kind of the diversity and some of the challenges that one faces when contemplating uniting Africa, there are more than 2,000 languages, different languages that are spoken in Africa. Those include a wide range of different indigenous languages, as well as languages that have been, let's say, thrust upon them or imported from outside, including Arabic, French, English, and Portuguese. Something that I find is really compelling about the direction that Africa is headed, and that may be surprising to people who are thinking about the West as developed and technologically sophisticated, and the developing world, including Africa, as growing and yet not as sophisticated technologically, to really burst that misconception. The initiator and leader of mobile phone banking So using your telephone to conduct banking transactions was actually started in Africa. And by far, more people use their phones for banking in Africa than any place else on the planet. And what that shows is how Africa and Africans are very, very creatively making a leap from the pre-industrial world to being stuck in the industrial world, which is, where many parts of the so-called developed world are, that manufacturing cars and that sort of thing, to what is known as the fourth industrial revolution, which is the technological revolution. So mobile phones in particular have really helped Africans, and their use of them has helped them make incredible strides in terms of their own development without moving through some of these other what had previously been thought of stages of economic development. And that's quite remarkable. So we're going to see a ton of more innovation and creativity coming out of Africa, and that is going to be really transforming how everyone lives and operates and conducts themselves in the rest of the world. So that's enough out of me. I'd really like for each of our speakers to talk a little bit about where they're from, and they've got some presentations prepared. So just looking at the screen as I see it, I'm going to start at the top right with Fatin.
All right. Thank you so much, and good evening to everyone who is watching this event tonight. My name is Fatin Yaro. I am from Burkina Faso, which is located in West Africa. And Burkina Faso is, known to be the land of the upright man. The country was founded, founded in 1919 by the French colonizers, and we got our independence from France in 1960. And then in 1983, we had a revolution in Burkina Faso led by Thomas Sankara, and he's the one who changed the name of the country to what it is now, Burkina Faso, because it used to be called Haute-Volta. When the French colonizer created the country, they called it Volta or Upper Volta in English. But in 1983, Thomas Sankara changed the name, and it became Burkina Faso, the land of the upright men. In Burkina Faso, we have about 63 different local languages. I speak 3 of them, in addition to English, French, and a little bit of German. So that's a little bit of Burkina Faso. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fatin. Ali Note, can you tell us a little bit about yourself in the Congo?
Yes, thank you so much. Again, my name is Ali Note Malebo. I'm originally from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Congo is known as most resources country in terms of natural resources. It was colonized by the Belgium, and we get our independence in June 30th, 1960. So that is what I'm going to share about Congo. We also speak more than 300 languages, and I can speak 3 of them, which is Swahili, French, Kibembe, in addition to English, but that is not our national language. It is not our national language. The official language spoken in Congo is French, but there are other popular languages known as Swahili, Kikongo, Chiluba, and Lingala. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. It's pretty remarkable that you're here studying in graduate school in the United States in English with all those other languages under your belt. But of course, that's what everyone here is doing. Christian, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Koko Lubambo Christian. I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And what I'll share about Congo, we are the second largest country in Africa, and we are the 4th populated country in Africa. Congo housed rare wild species like okapi and mountain gorillas. Also, we house the third largest mountain in Africa, which is Mountain Stanley. And Congo, we have, as my colleague Malebo mentioned, we have rich natural resources, but wealth is poorly distributed in the country, and that is the reason of unending war in Congo. And in Congo, the majority of people are Christians, and I speak French and English, and my local dialect, which is Mashi, and some Kiavu, and I can speak also some little Kinyarwanda and Kiganda. Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Christian. Joel, please tell us a little bit about yourself in Nigeria.
Thank you, John. I'm sorry, I just finished from the lab. So anyway, I'm from Nigeria, and my name is Joel Omage. So Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa. And yeah, I think Nigeria is very well known for oil. I think the largest producer of petroleum in Africa. I think that is what we are most famous for. It was colonized by the British, and of course we gained our independence on October 1st, 1960. That is what I have to say for now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joel. And Dr. Lardy, we're so delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Western Kentucky.
Yes, please. Thank you, John. Yes, my name is Grace Latte. I'm a professor of public health at Western Kentucky University. I've been here I just started my 15th year. And I'm originally from Ghana, but I moved here about almost 22 years ago to go to school. And after schooling, I stayed here and started working. Ghana is very popular. If you haven't heard of Ghana, then you really don't know the continent. But Ghana is very popular, colonized by the British. We gained independence in 1957, so we've been around for a little bit longer. That's all that I can say about us. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Dr. Larté. Divine, please tell us about your experience in the Congo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Divine Kuku. I've been in the US for 5 years now. I speak 3 languages, Lingala, French, and English. And one of the fun facts about Congo is that it used to be called Zaire. The second president changed the name to Zaire because for some reason he didn't like it. But after he was overthrown, then the third president changed it back to Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. And also, like the others said, our independence is on June 30th. That's when we celebrate our independence. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, Fatin, I'm going to turn things over to you. And if you want to start inviting folks to give their little presentations and their perspectives, we can't wait to hear.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for this wonderful introduction. I will maybe give the floor to Alinoti to introduce our main speaker tonight. So, Alinoti, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Fatin, for that. Again, it is a wonderful day to have all of you guys who are watching us on YouTube or on Facebook. This time, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is a graduate student, an international graduate student from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He's majoring in leadership organization and also taking some economics classes. He will going to talk about politics of uniting Africa. His name is Christian Koko. So please help me, and let's welcome Christian.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Alinoti. As he said, I'm Coco Christian. I'm a graduate student of WKU majoring in organizational leadership and applied economics. Today, we shall have a conversation about African Union and the politics of uniting Africa. So we cannot talk about African Union without talking about Pan-Africanism, which was a fraternal movement of Black Africans in the United Kingdom that was conducted by William Sylvester, and later it was expanded in America by William Du Bois. And these movements really inspired African leaders who were fighting to liberate Africa from colonialism. And after liberation of colonialism, African leaders founded the Organization of African Union. Later in 2002, in Gabon, in South Africa, these leaders ratified the treaty of creating African Union, which look like a broad structures and more inclusion of women, and it recognized the gender equality, human rights, but the main objective of creating African Union was a socio-economic integration for Africa. So tonight, we shall talk about the politics of one single currency, free movement of people, common markets, conflict resolution, peace and security. I'm going to present one section, then I will open the discussion to panelist member. And if you have any question, please put it on the comment section and we'll be happy to answer it. So the African in general, and especially African currencies, are suffering of continuation of colonization of Africa. This is why France and Western countries created currencies for African countries. For example, France still having influence on a currency of West African countries. It created this CFA franc, and it requested all African countries to deposit 50% of their reserve in the Central Bank of France, and those African countries could only access on that reserve of money as a form of loan that they have to repay back with interest. Most African central banks are suffering because they are not independent when they are executing their mandates, especially central banks of countries which have their own currencies. This central bank, they are usually forced by their country to finance the deficits of the government and other public deficits. And this makes this central bank to suffer during a period of high inflation. But having one central bank in Africa could help, and one powerful currency, it could give pride to Africans. And also it could put African on better position to negotiate greater trade arrangements, both globally at the level of World Trade Organization, also bilaterally with European Union and with America. So we have been observing creation of currencies for regional economic communities in Africa. For example, Western African countries, they are planning to introduce in this year the ECO to replace the former CFA franc that was created by France. And this is like giving freedom to African currencies. And also East African countries planning in this year to introduce in the market their money. All this seems plausible toward having a unified currency in Africa. So what could be the benefit of having one single currency in Africa? As well, what could be the challenges of having one single currency in Africa? And what is your opinion about having one single currency in Africa? I'm going to open the discussion. So if you have any contribution to give, please, you're welcome to share with us. And don't forget, if you have any question, please put it on the comments and we shall be happy to answer it. Thank you.
One of the benefits, as I see it, with a single currency, means it'll be one currency, one people. Like right now, with everything that's going, we have so many currencies and that we don't really know the origin of them, and they don't really have any value. So to have one currency for the whole continent means we'll have some power over our own activities as well, and the currency will have more value to others. One of the challenges is like Christian mentioned about Western dominance. It'll be very hard to have that one currency when we still have so much Western power over Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much for your contribution, Divine.
Yeah, I also kind of agree with what Divine has just mentioned. The dominance or the neo-colonization of Africa is what is going on actually right now. And I'm going to talk, for example, of the case of ECOWAS, Western African countries that use the CFA franc. They decided recently, to move toward a common currency in that zone, in the ECOWAS zone. And we've seen last year how France, with its current President Emmanuel Macron, was that much involved in trying to manipulate, that currency and still have control over it. Because what was going to happen is that we would have countries such as Nigeria, Ghana, who are not using the CFA franc right now. But with the ECO, these countries were going to join, that monetary group, and we would have been using the same currency. But, the way France wants it to be implemented is like what is going on right now with the CFA, meaning that, it will be, the money will be made in France. They will still control it, and the exchange rate will I think, remain the same, instead of kind of fluctuating exchange rate like with the dollars and all those stuff. And countries such as Ghana and Nigeria are opposing this policy. So Emmanuel Macron went to Ivory Coast last year and met with the Ivorian president, Alassane Dramane Ouattara, and they decided, to move on without those countries yet. So countries that are currently using the CFA francs are going to move into that common currency, the ECO, and then later on, maybe Nigeria and Ghana, if they think they can join, they will join. So this is, I would say, the main challenge. Those Western countries are still trying to maintain their dominance to control the I would say monetary policies on the continent. So that's the big challenge, as Divine has mentioned. Talking about the advantages, I think having a common currency in Africa would probably, facilitate market expansion. Me from Burkina Faso would be able to travel to maybe Nigeria, where they currently have their own currency. But if we have a common currency, I can, do business with Nigeria easily without having to worry about the fluctuation of, exchange rate of money and all those stuff. And it would also, I would say, as I mentioned, reduce transaction costs, and that would also contribute somehow to improve tourism on the continent.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fatin. And I will have to move to the next section. The next one is a domination of free movement in the continent. So in Africa, we can't talk about integration when we're still having a physical and invisible barrier that are still preventing us from moving freely in Africa. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense when someone outside Africa is coming to Africa and is well welcomed, but us as countries, we are preventing our own brothers of Africa for entering in our countries and for moving freely. Even others are going even ahead and killing them. Such case happened in some countries in South Africa. Also, we have seen establishment of sub-region economic community, such as East African Community. It is implementing some strategies to enable free movement of people in the continent, in East Africa. So, in Burundi, Rwanda, Kenya, and Tanzania, they don't need visa actually to move within those countries, and that is enhancing business and investment in those economic communities. And it is even in Western countries with ECOWAS, with Ghana, Gambia, Nigeria, and all other countries. You found this free movement of people is enhancing business and investment. Also, to make this movement, we should this free movement to materialize this idea. The African Union launched recently the passport for African people. These are diplomatic passports. As you can see, the President Kagame and the President Idriss Déby holding their diplomatic passport. This is already bolstering. It is bolstering the free movement in the continent. So actually, and also we need free visas to move in Africa. We can't be in Africa, and when we need to go to other countries, we need to pay visas. We need to apply for a visa for long days. But having this free movement, though it should be regulated, because we should be subject to the laws and the procedures of immigration of the country where we want to travel. Again, I will open the discussion to other panelists. If you have any question, feel free to share it, and we shall be happy to answer it.
If I may, I'd like to kind of put this in context for an American audience. Now, we're located here in Kentucky, and Kentucky borders more states than any other state in the United States: Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and Tennessee. Imagine if each one of those states In order to go from, say, Bowling Green down to Nashville, which is an hour away, you had to get a passport, get a visa to go to Tennessee, and then exchange your money, your Kentucky money, for Tennessee money every time you went back and forth. Well, how often would you go back and forth? And imagine that then over those other states. If you want to do some business in Missouri or in Indiana or Illinois, it would become very, very complicated and very, very awkward. As Americans, because we live in a country with a single currency and no borders internally, we take these kinds of things for granted. But it's a really different thing, especially in Africa, where the borders were drawn arbitrarily by colonial powers, not respecting the people who happen to live on one side or whatever of that artificial line that was drawn in Vienna. And I think it's very important to have that kind of concept. Imagine what would it be like, and how much it would hold things back in Kentucky, in Tennessee, Illinois, Ohio, Virginia, if they could not do business with one another. So I just want to put that out there to kind of contextualize it, from an American circumstance. So please go ahead.
Yeah, if we talk about free movement in Africa, it is something that is like a systematic during the colonization. Because if we go back during the colonization, when people from the outside went into the continent and colonized Africa, they really care only about their own profit, such as like the profit from natural resources from Congo and all those diamonds from South Africa. And they took all those resources to take them back. And during those times was the time when they set up borders, because most of the borders in Africa were not set up by Africans. We are set up by people from the outside. So, and until now, I'm like personally, I think like we're still not free, and we are not free. Like Christian said, if I'm from Congo, I want to go to Kenya, I have to apply for passport, I have to apply for visa, and it is a really long process. So it is very challenging because it is something that is systematic set up, and we already have that mindset of being like, oh, we are divided already. But this generation, as we are talking about these issues, I think it is very important to address them and take serious actions to open the borders and make people to be free in their continent. So, and we can give like a free example, like what Dr. John said about America. People are free because we move from state to another state and we do businesses together. So from what Christian just said, from the first topic that we talked about, common currency and this free movement, I think having that common currency, we're going to open up the borders in order to work together as African. So that is what I'm going to share on this topic.
More thinking about it, I came here in 2015. It wasn't really my choice because my father brought me here. He thought, quote unquote, I would have a better life here. So imagine if I was still in Africa and I had all these opportunities I have here, my life wouldn't be as much different. Like I would still have the same, I would still be me, but still learning more. So the way I see it, like many people in Africa, they have so much potential, but they can't really live up to their potential because not only do they have barriers outside of Africa, they also have barriers inside, mainly because we focus more on the differences that were set for us. So for example, like me, Congolese, with someone from Uganda, we wouldn't necessarily get along very well because we only focus on the difference instead of the similarities. And let's face it, we speak different languages, so that makes it more difficult. So having this free movement on place, it will eliminate some of those differences because we'll be moving freely and we'll also be learning more about each other, which brings in more acceptance. And then having that in mind, that will open up our minds, will be more open-minded, and will bring more innovation. Also with that, unemployment will lower a lot. Like I just saw on Google, the unemployment in Angola is like 30%. That's very high. That's like super high. So having this movement on place, people moving freely, they would be having jobs, like they wouldn't be unemployed, they'll be having something to do. And also this will open up many opportunities for education, as well as increase degree holders, because someone will actually have something that they're doing, they're willing to do. And I've met many Africans, they really are hardworking people. They just don't have the right opportunities. So having this in place will open up many of these opportunities, and they can see themselves as people capable of achieving many things, instead of just watching Westerners achieve things for them, and then having that mindset that they're low people, like small people.
Thank you so much, Divine. Okay. The next point is Africa free trade, which is African single market. The main objective is to establish a custom union by creating a single market of goods and services in Africa with free movement of business person and investments. This will boost foreign direct investment in Africa because it will eliminate corruptions and all the range of legal procedures to open up investments in Africa. So a company doesn't need to register in all countries in Africa, only registering with a structure that has been provided for registering federal foreign direct investment. A company can expand all over Africa, and this also will expand intra-Africa across the regional economic community and the continent in general. For example, the East Africa the East Africa community is planning to build a long railway which will pass in Tanzania, Kenya, up to Rwanda, and that will be the largest in Africa. Also, this will develop infrastructures. As I mentioned, we should have roads because this business need to move from the coast sea up to to some countries which are in the continent. So we should have development of infrastructures. Again, I will open the discussion to other panelists. How do you think having single markets in Africa will develop Africa? And are there any challenge? Is there any challenge of having this single market, or what is your opinion on having a single market in Africa? You are welcome to share your thoughts. So, and if you have any question, please put it under comments, and we shall be happy to answer it. So, okay, I'm going to present the next section. Is conflict resolution, peace and security. One of the agenda of the Peace and Security Council is to make Africa a peaceful and a secure continent by 2020. And one of their strategies is silencing guns in Africa. in this year. So again, another strategy is to have a peacekeepers mission that will establish, that will protect civilians in case of war, and that will protect, and that will work hard, and that will try to bring peace in a conflict region. The good one positive thing about the Peace and Security Council of Africa, actually, in Africa, they are creating a space to solve our own problems, to provide solutions to our problems. We don't need, as it used to be before, for our leaders to travel abroad, to go to seek for solution when they are called in France, when they are called in America. But actually, we are providing a space to resolve our own conflict. For example, the conflict of South Sudan, the recent conflict, all African leaders, all African people got involved in those conflicts, for that conflict, and today they managed to bring back peace. And as example, the post-election violence in Kenya, all African leaders were involved, and peace came back in Kenya. So there is also an idea of creating a Africa court to resolve and to impeach and to judge recalcitrant of this treaty of security, of peace and security in Africa. Again, I will open the discussion to other panelists. What is your opinion about peace, security, and peace and the conflict resolution in Africa? You are welcome to share your thoughts.
Basically, if we think about peace and problem resolution in Africa, like the reflection that's come out of my mind right now, I see that Africa, we are not free because there's still a lot of problems that are still happening. And if we go back, we have a lot of peacekeepers from the UN in Africa, and those people are from the outside of the country, trying like to bring peace in the continent. Even if their role is to bring peace, but conflict is still happening. So one of the solutions that I think may be the best, it would be like to leave like Africa to be independent, have their own peacekeepers, instead of like traveling abroad and ask for help. They should just be like independent, and people from the outside should not have those power to make decisions in the country. We should just make our own decision and send them abroad to those people who are interested in learning more about Africa. So that is just like my opinion about the problem resolution in Africa.
Thank you so much, Alinoti.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just want to say something in response to what you said, Alinoti. My worry is that it seems like Africa has refused to be independent up to this day. You know, looking at the situation that happened recently in Nigeria, I still wonder if we're ready to, to lead ourselves, as a people. Just the SARS brutality or police brutality that we experienced in Nigeria, and people were, crying out to the government, to end police brutality. There was no, effective stance. There was no proper resolution, taken to end that issue. And we started crying out to international bodies to come to our aid. Nothing happened. I began to wonder if we have like something like an African Union. I'm not so vast in politics. So I was like, where are the bodies, the African bodies that can intervene? Because this is an African crisis. I'm also aware that Cameroon is having crisis. Some other parts of Africa also experiencing this crisis. We keep talking about independence, which is very good. You know, Nigeria gained independence is 1960, and someone said something which is quite funny. He said Nigeria is progressing backward. I don't know how that happens, you know, but, you know, we wanted to have our independence. Most African countries have gained independence, and we still don't see the development that we want. So my issue is that it's good we have our independence. We have something like the UN or EU, something like that, that can regulate Africa, you know, like serve as a mediator. When there's crisis, they come in and, you know, try to bring peace, you know, and resolve internal crisis. But we just hope that there will be a structure in place to ensure that there is no corruption. It is fair, it is transparent. And the idea of the court you mentioned, Christian, is a very, very nice suggestion. You know, I don't know if that is already in place or they are already thinking about it. I would really, really, you know, be happy if we could do that. But again, I also hope it will be fair. You know, even in Africa, the government are in charge of this courts or judicial system. They control this system. But if everything is fair, is transparent, you know, and we are really independent, then we'll be able to resolve our internal crisis. You know, so I think that is a major issue. If we are fair, if we feel like we are ready, you know, to lead ourselves, then of course things will be, of course, very better for Africa. Yeah. But I think this is the right step in the right direction, you know, in terms of peace, conflict resolution. So it's good we are independent, but we just have to be transparent. You know, we have to do away with corruption. There are corruption, you know, I mean, there's corruption in other countries as well, but, you know, Africa, we have to just be serious, you know, be ready to do what is right. Yeah, that is what I think. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. Because whenever we think about problem resolution, we should also be thinking about what is the cause of the problem. And I think the main cause of those problems back in Africa is corruption. Even if we are independent, but if we're still doing things with corrupt, then we won't be independent as we want to be. So transparency in Africa. So, but the question would be like, how can we bring that transparency? How can we end corruption? So that will be like a challenge. So yeah, what do you guys think?
Kind of responding to what Joel mentioned, asking if Africans are ready, you know, to be free, independent, you know, and lead themselves. I would say yes. I do believe that the African people, the youth in Africa, you know, are kind of ready for that. But do we have the leadership it takes to set the continent really free and corruption free? We've had some leaders, you know, who've tried that, you know, to build a unified continent, a corrupt free continent. But what has happened to them? I mentioned, for example, Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso, Patrice Lumumba from Congo, Kwame Nkrumah from Ghana. What happened to all those leaders who wanted a unified continent, who wanted to lead the continent for the greater benefit of the African people? They've been somehow assassinated or removed from power through some sort of coup d'etat in a way or the other, right? So I would say what we need maybe on the continent is to educate the youth, make them understand that they have a voice that counts. People, I would say that maybe, you know, like what is happening in the United States, we're saying that the youth in the US do not participate in elections. Maybe that's also a reality on the continent. How many young people participate in politics? Joel has just mentioned that he's not very much interested in politics, but it's up to the youth to change the continent, you know, the way we want it to be. Because as you've mentioned, I've mentioned, our leadership on the continent actually right now is not what many people want. And those people, most of them are just puppets, of the West, of former colonizers. They're there to protect the interests of, the former colonizers. And as long as they do not constitute a threat to those interests, they can remain in power forever. We've had the case of Omar Bongo in Gabon, who spent over 40 years as president, just because he had the support of France. Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso, 27 years after having assassinated Thomas Sankara, just because he had the support of France. And when the popular uprising occurred and he was running away from the country, it is the French army that came into the country and picked him with their helicopter and brought him to Ivory Coast. That is just to show how neocolonialism is preventing the continent to really be free and corrupt free. Corruption, I would say, is also somehow encouraged by those former colonies. As I said, they are the ones who manipulate those leaders and maintain them in place as long as they do not threaten their interests, as long as they do not, try to make the continent really free.
Yeah, I just want to add up on what Fatim said about engaging young people into politics. That is really great, because if we see most young African, if you tell them about politics, what they think is only about negative things. They think about corruption, war, conflict, anything that you could imagine that is negative. That is what people think. So if we provide that education to young people, try to show them about politics, leadership, how can we come together as African? How can we unite our countries? I think that will be more benefit to our continent. So, yeah.
I also wanted to add something on top of that. I think like the problem is it's more selfishness. People are willing to put their um, self-interest over everybody else. If we had that mindset that the people come first, like here in the United States, that will put the interest of the people in front, and then individual interest will follow after. But also, like the problem is, those leaders in Africa, they don't really have maybe they don't have the right education or the right mindset, because they're more like influenced by other people's decision. I feel like us Africans, we wait for other people to make decisions for us, and then when those decisions are made, then we're like, oh, we don't like it. But when it's time to step up, then we're like, oh, I don't want to do this because this is gonna happen. But also, like going back to your topic, I was just wondering, with all of these conflict resolution, how much of sovereignty is the country willing to give up just for that central military? Like, what would, how much force is going to be used? Because like you see all these like UN and stuff like that, they use some type of forces to build into the country. So if we have us Africans just ruling our own continent, then everyone's gonna be like, oh, I have to do this. It's my own choice. So I was just like wondering how much sovereignty is the country supposed to give up just to have that central military?
Okay. Can I quickly say something? Sorry for coming late to this platform. I just wanted to add to what she just said now. And seriously, right from the time I joined this discussion, that has been on my mind. That one of the major problems we have in Africa is lack of selflessness. We are just very selfish. And I was reading a post recently, and in the post, the person listed the names of so many leaders we have in Africa. Now, most of these leaders, they came into leadership roles. They were head of state, they were governors, they were military head of state at a very young age. Some of them at 29 years old, some of them at their early 30s, some of them 40s. At least we can consider those, age brackets to be youth or young people generally. So actually, when you're saying bringing young people into leadership, well, I don't think that will actually solve the problem of Africa in general, because most of these people that are in leadership today, these old people, they were actually there at their early age, and still they didn't come up with something great for Africa. So it actually boils down to our selflessness or our commitment to service. Once we have a good orientation of how service should be, you are not there to serve your own interest, nor the interest of your families, not to embezzle funds that are meant for the public. Rather, you are there to make lives better for people. And once we can change this orientation, I believe Africa will actually emerge to be one of the greatest. One of the great. In fact, with what we have in Africa, we have a lot of potential, and if we can maximize it and we can bear this consciousness, like service, what service actually is, I think will actually emerge in a very short time. So, like what she has said, is actually selfishness. If you look at our leaders in Africa today, most especially in Nigeria, I'm sorry, let me just use that as an example. I'm from Nigeria. You see, most of them, they are actually young when they came into leadership roles, but all what they wanted to do is just to make themselves. Most of them are extremely rich today. We have African leaders. I know of governors in Nigeria that have universities outside the country, like top-rated universities, like one of the best universities outside the country. They have businesses outside the country, but they never invested into Nigeria, and they keep becoming rich. One of my friend Joe was telling me of one of the politicians we have in Nigeria. He said as at 2002, he invested around $300 and something thousand into one of the, I wouldn't want to mention names, one of the companies we have here. We have it in Bowling Green, even in Bowling. And today, he's making millions of dollars out of that. If he had invested that money, and I'm so sure he didn't have any other job than this politics, and I'm so sure if he had invested such amount into Nigeria economy, it would have yielded something, better today. A lot of youth would be employed. The protests that came up in Nigeria recently, it was because people were actually tired of the government. A lot of graduates are outside, youth are outside, master's degree holder. I know of a lot of master's degree, holders, and with no job. I know of master's degree holder, pharmaceutical science, teaching in a primary school, not because he or she wants to teach there, but he has no choice. So it starts from us. Once we can have this orientation, once we can reorient ourselves of what leadership or what service is, I think Africa will emerge and will be a very great continent.
I totally agree with what my fellow Africans have just mentioned about corruption. I just wanted to mention that in 2016, Transparency International conducted a kind of study, and in their report, they mentioned that over $50 billion flow out of the continent annually because of corruption. And it's all about African leaders, having bank accounts in Western countries and depositing those, big amount of money in those accounts in the West. And when the countries lack basic, resources like access to healthcare, access to schools, infrastructure, education, access to clean water, access to sanitation, they embezzling public funds, investing in banks in Western countries, and when they seek, they have that means with the public fund to travel to those countries, to get the good quality healthcare they need when the people in their countries are lacking the basics. So these are some issues, but I do have the faith and the hope that if the youth get the education it takes and also kind of invest in educating those who are kind of left behind, we can transform things positively on the face of the continent.
Okay. Sir, may I just chip in something? Well, I'm not disputing the fact that African youths need education, yes, because education is the basis for development. When you see development anywhere, you should look around if these people are educated. If you have uneducated ones in a developed country, they will mismanage the resources and the country will end up becoming bad. But the level we are in Africa right now, I can say generally in Africa, we have a lot of educated youth, a lot of educated youth. Some part of Africa, like the northern part of Africa, I can't really say that, but like the western, like the southwestern region, like generally, let me say we have a lot of educated youth in Africa, but it all boils down to the orientation we have. Personally, like I'm so glad youth are coming up, and with the protests that happened in Nigeria, the way it was so coordinated and it was so, I can see that like a lot of changes is happening. I mean, we are really going somewhere. So it boils down to us personally. Once we can reorient ourselves, we can get a better understanding of how to serve one another, how to serve someone beside us, how to love someone beside. I think we'll actually, but when you talk of education, and in fact, generally I can say Africans, we are like youth in Africa, we are educated. Most of those leaders you see, they actually schooled outside the country. Most of those leaders in Africa today, they were products of free education, scholarships in United States, in the Western world generally. Most of them, they are military men. They've gone outside the country, different countries to be trained. And they came back and still exploiting the people, like exploiting the nation. So I think it's orientation, and it all begins with us. We just need to get that into an average Nigeria. If you get to Nigeria today and ask like an average youth on the street, he's going to tell you that once he gets into a political post, he wants to get his own and leave the place.
Absolutely. I think it's been a very wonderful discussion. We've given you the opportunity to, expose us to a lot of things. You've, really touched on the subject and provided us with a lot of information. We appreciate everything that you have said. We know there is a lot more that you guys want to share, but it's time for us to continue with the next session. So we will ask, I'll hand over to Dr. Sinigat to wrap it up for us.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Lorty. This has been a really wonderful conversation. I can't tell you, how much I've learned an awful lot, and I really appreciate hearing everyone's perspective on these really complicated issues. And I just want to leave, with one thought. Fatin had mentioned about the importance of youth and the educating youth and development of Africa. Well, you are Africa's youth getting an outstanding education. And I cannot wait to see what happens when you go back with what you've learned here in the United States and the kinds of changes that you're going to make. I know that one of you will be the next Kofi Annan. So thank you, everyone. And I wish you all a very good evening. And please join the rest of our International Education Week activities, including fly fishing videos here in just a few minutes. So thank you again, everyone. Much appreciated.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.